We're the greatest band in history, and almost nobody disputes that. But even legends leave behind a few relics. These 10 Beatles songs, once celebrated, now land very differently in the modern ear. Number 10. Run for Your Life by the Beatles.
You better watch your head, little girl, or you won't know where I am.
It opened the 1965 album Rubber Soul, one of the most critically celebrated records ever made. But the opening line, borrowed from an old Elvis Presley song, contains a direct threat of lethal violence toward a romantic partner. John Lennon later admitted in a 1980 Playboy interview that he personally hated the song, calling it his least favorite Beatles track. The lyric, "I'd rather see you dead, little girl, than to be with another man," was jarring even by 1960s standards. Lennon pulled it from Elvis Presley's Baby Let's Playhouse almost wholesale.
You better run for your life if you can, little girl. Hide your head in the sand.
What makes this one sting more than others is that Lennon himself disowned it. That rare self-awareness adds a layer of historical honesty most artists never provide. The song reached number 1 in Norway but barely charted in the United States, peaking at number 65 on the Billboard Hot 100 in early 1966.
To see you dead, little girl, than to be with another man.
Number 9. Baby It's You by the Beatles.
Can I do? Can't help myself.
Originally recorded by the Shirelles in 1961, this cover appeared on the 1963 debut album Please Please Me. The Beatles recorded the entire album in a single marathon session on February 11, 1963, running roughly 13 hours straight. The performance itself is energetic and charming, capturing the raw excitement of 4 young musicians hungry for their breakthrough moment.
Baby, it's you.
The problem today is not the performance, but the framing. The song romanticizes jealous, possessive behavior, with lines about a partner who cheats and lies but remains irresistible anyway. When measured against modern conversations about relationship dynamics and accountability, the lyrical content feels like a relic of an era that excused far too much. It remains a fascinating historical artifact, capturing the Beatles at their rawest, but its core message sits uncomfortably in contemporary listening.
I drove by, I sit alone at home and I cry over you.
Number 8. Mr. Moonlight by the Beatles.
From above you sent us love.
Released on Beatles for Sale in December 1964, this cover of the Roy Lee Johnson original is widely considered one of the weakest recordings the band ever released. Even devoted fans have struggled to defend it. The vocals are strained, the organ solo is widely described as one of the most grating moments in the entire Beatles catalog, and the arrangement feels oddly disconnected from everything else the band was doing at the time. Music critics have revisited the Beatles catalog extensively over the decades, and Mr. Moonlight consistently appears near the bottom of ranked lists. Rolling Stone contributors and longtime Beatles scholars have described it as an embarrassing inclusion on an otherwise emotionally resonant album. Paul McCartney himself has acknowledged that Beatles for Sale was recorded under exhausting conditions, the band having completed 200 live performances in 1964 alone, and the fatigue shows most clearly here.
Here I am on my knees, begging if you please.
Number 7. I Wanna Be Your Man by the Beatles. Written by John Lennon and Paul McCartney and famously handed to the Rolling Stones in 1963, the Beatles' own version appeared on With the Beatles the same year. The Stones version became a minor UK hit, but the Beatles recording has not weathered time particularly well. Lyrically, the song reduces romantic interest to purely physical possession, repeating the central phrase with little lyrical variation or emotional depth. By the standards of what Lennon and McCartney were already capable of writing, even in 1963, the song feels deliberately throwaway. They essentially gifted it to their rivals because they did not value it highly themselves. Ringo Starr handled lead vocals on the Beatles version, which gave him a moment in the spotlight, but the material itself left critics and historians with little to analyze beyond its role as an early example of the Lennon-McCartney songwriting. Partnership finding its footing. Number 6. Yellow Submarine by the Beatles.
We all live in a yellow submarine, yellow submarine.
Released as a double A-side single with Eleanor Rigby in August 1966, it reached #1 in the United Kingdom and #2 in the United States. The contrast between the two songs on that single remains one of the most striking in pop history, Eleanor Rigby being one of the most emotionally devastating songs the band ever recorded, while Yellow Submarine was designed as a children's sing-along for Ringo Starr to carry.
A life of these, every one of us, that's all we need.
The song has not aged poorly in a harmful sense, but it has become nearly impossible to listen to as serious music. Decades of use in children's programming, toy commercials, and theme parks have stripped it of any artistic context it once had. Many longtime Beatles fans openly skip it during full album listens. The 1968 animated film of the same name remains a psychedelic visual achievement.
Live a life of ease, every one of us has all we need.
Before we continue, which Beatles song do you think holds up the best after all these decades? Did you grow up listening to the Fab Four on vinyl, or discover them later in life? Drop a comment and let us know where you are watching from. Number 5, Obla Di, Obla Da by the Beatles. Paul McCartney wrote this in 1968, drawing on the catchphrase of Nigerian conga player Jimmy Scott, who later sued unsuccessfully for songwriting credit. It appeared on the White Album, released in November 1968, where it sat in jarring contrast to tracks like Helter Skelter and Happiness is a Warm Gun. John Lennon reportedly despised the song, famously storming into the recording session after the band had struggled with it for days and playing the opening piano chords at double speed in frustration. Lennon called it Paul's granny music, and that critique has followed the song for over 50 years. It became a #1 hit across multiple countries, reaching the top spot in the United Kingdom in January 1969 through a cover by Marmalade. But repeated exposure through television commercials and easy listening compilations has made it one of the most polarizing entries in the entire Beatles catalog, beloved by some and deeply irritating to others.
Takes it back to Molly when he got the door, and when he gives it to her, she begins to sing.
Number 4, All Together Now by the Beatles.
Together now, all together now, all together now, all together now, all together now.
From the 1969 Yellow Submarine soundtrack album, this track was built around counting, the alphabet, and simple color naming. It was designed as a children's song and succeeds entirely on those terms, but that is precisely the problem. By 1969, the Beatles were also releasing Abbey Road, a record that would influence virtually every major rock act of the following decade, from Led Zeppelin to Fleetwood Mac to David Bowie.
Pink, brown, yellow, orange, and blue, I love you, all together now.
All together.
Hearing All Together Now alongside that body of late-period work creates an uncomfortable gap in artistic ambition. Even in 1969, critics noted that the Yellow Submarine soundtrack felt like contractual filler rather than a genuine creative statement. The album was largely composed of previously released material and orchestral score pieces by George Martin, making it one of the least essential entries in the official catalog. All Together Now remains charming in the narrowest sense, but has virtually no place in a serious Beatles listening session today.
Skip the rope, look at me.
Number 3, It Won't Be Long by the Beatles.
It won't be long, yeah, it won't be long, yeah.
The opening track of With the Beatles, released in November 1963, it demonstrated the raw energy and vocal intensity the band was perfecting in Hamburg and on the British touring circuit. The Yeah 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 hook was directly calculated to mirror the commercial success of She Loves You, released just months earlier. It reached #1 in the United Kingdom and confirmed that Beatlemania was no accident. But revisiting it today, the song feels like a formula rather than a feeling.
Here am I, sitting all on my own.
The Yeah repetition, the call and response structure, and the simple chord progression were already being replicated across dozens of British invasion acts within a year. Songs like this one, while historically significant, now read more as a blueprint than a timeless piece of music. It documents a moment in pop history but does not transcend it the way later Beatles recordings consistently managed to do.
You left me, I'm so alone, now you're coming on.
Number 2. Hold Me Tight by the Beatles.
Alone tonight with you. It feels so right now. Oh.
Paul McCartney originally wrote this in 1962, and an early version was recorded during the Please Please Me sessions but left off the final album. It resurfaced on With the Beatles in November 1963, but even McCartney has never shown particular affection for it. In multiple interviews over the decades, he has described the early catalog entries that did not originate from genuine emotional experience as functional exercises rather than inspired songwriting.
It means to hold you tight, being here alone tonight with you.
The song is lyrically thin even by early Beatles standards, offering little beyond a repeated plea for physical closeness with no narrative or emotional development. Compared to what McCartney was already capable of, including the aching vulnerability of P.S. I Love You, or the melodic sophistication of All My Loving Hold Me Tight, sounds like a rough draft that should have stayed in the drawer. It remains a historical footnote rather than a living piece of music.
Hold me tight. Let me go on loving you.
Number 1. Piggies by the Beatles.
Bigger piggies in the starched white shirts. You will find the bigger piggy.
George Harrison wrote this gentle, harpsichord-driven satire for the White Album in 1968, with a middle verse contributed by his mother Louise. The song targets the British upper class with barnyard imagery, but its legacy was permanently altered by events Harrison could never have anticipated. Charles Manson cited Piggies, along with several other White Album tracks, as part of the apocalyptic race war narrative he called Helter Skelter.
In your eyes, something lacking. What they need's a damn good thrashing.
Using the song as supposed justification for the Tate LaBianca murders in August 1969. Harrison spent years distancing himself from that association, and in interviews he expressed genuine sadness that a song his mother helped write had been twisted so grotesquely. The music itself is elegant and whimsical, featuring a string arrangement and Harrison's driest wit.
You will find the bigger piggies stirring up the turf, and they always have clean.
But it is nearly impossible for informed listeners to encounter Piggies without the weight of that history arriving alongside it. Few songs in rock history carry such an unwanted shadow.